Welcome back to TramTown. I want to talk today about the 140th anniversary of the tramway because this is a very significant year for us. Our anniversary date is the 29th of September and we opened to the public in 1885, and a very great deal of things have happened during that period of time. We've had 2 world wars amongst other things, and that's quite a remarkable feat in itself, that we've survived them both and survived all kinds of trials and tribulations, both financial, infrastructure related, and well, basically obsolescence of tramway infrastructure that's threatened the tramway's survival over so many times we've almost forgotten just how many. But we've always celebrated the success of the tramway from the 25th anniversary onwards, because even in those days it was considered to be something remarkably unique. We were and are the first electric street tramway in the British Isles, and that makes us quite unique in worldwide tramway terms. Tramways have been around ever since the mining industry and have been running through public streets for some considerable time after that. But I think it was electric traction that really enabled them to take off and become something quite unique and magical. Basically an electric railway running through a public street, which is what a tramway is. So to get to 140 years is remarkable in its own right. Sadly, we're not able to celebrate it in the way that we would normally do because our trams are not running this summer, and that's just an unfortunate misfortune that we're powerless to do anything about. Circumstances have led to the fact that we're not running at the moment, although we are hopeful of having the trams out there come the mid-illuminations period, and thereafter we'll be able to play it by ear and take it from there. I've been at Blackpool Transport for 30 years, and the changes that I've seen in that time has been quite remarkable as well. My own role has changed considerably. When the tramway upgrade came along, I was responsible for managing everything heritage, and so I went out and ran the Heritage Tram service from 2012. I also ran the engineering works and did everything else in between. I did all the developmental work, looked for funding streams, and it was quite honestly wearing because I did several other jobs as well. I was half the marketing team, and I also ran the customer services department, so I was kept pretty busy really on the whole. As time moved on, I recognised that we really needed to knuckle down to make sure that we can save our heritage infrastructure in terms of the buildings, the maintenance, and ultimately the offshoot of that will be that we'll be able to ensure that the Heritage Tram service can go on. So while that's not my direct remit anymore, inevitably it underpins it, and without that, without TramTown and everything that we want to achieve in the interim, there won't be any future for the Heritage Tram. One of the questions that I'm regularly asked is, I've been giving money to the Heritage Tram service for so long, and I recently read some posts on the internet. Everybody's saying, well, I'm giving money to that and I've been giving money to other things. Where did that go? The truth of the matter is all that went to do was offset the losses that the Heritage Tram service made, because, make no bones about it, it always did run at a loss. I experienced 3 golden years in the early days when I was running it, and I managed to get it to break even for 3 golden years. Thereafter, we couldn't increase the output to keep up with the demand, and the inevitable consequence was that the costs continued to rise, but our income remained at a standard level. So our losses began to increase. That, of course, rose to a period of time when we actually couldn't afford to run it sustainably anymore, which is one of the reasons why we ended up where we are now. Most of our engineering infrastructure is now very old and doesn't really meet current legislation. It doesn't meet current health and safety guidelines, and we can't afford to actually replace it either. So all those conditions need to be addressed before we can get back to where we were before. And that's where TramTown comes in. All these things take a long time to develop and deliver. You've only got to look at other enterprises around the country. They take 10 to 15 years from the drawing board to completion, and we're in exactly the same situation. We didn't want to compete with the council's own museum plans. So, we agreed not to compete with that, and that held us back by agreement for about 5 years. And in that time, the infrastructure was deteriorated still further. So those are difficulties and challenges that we have to continue to meet. And so for all the wonderful people who've come along to support us, and donations that they've been giving us has been going into that continuing growth fund to enable us to deliver that business plan and to move our projects forward in order to restore the tram shed and do some wonderful things in it. So don't give up on us. We're out there, we're still doing everything we need to do, and it's very clear that the public are behind what we're doing here, because every time we're open, we're doing really well. We're only open for 4 hours a day, and yet the return is helping us to pay for the architect's fees and all of the other things we've got to deliver in order to meet the requirements of our planning conditions. That's what we're working on now. So the 140th year is a good stepping stone into the future, and I very much hope that we'll be here for another 140 years. So I know I've rambled on a bit, there's such a lot to say, and whenever I start to talk to you, our wonderful, faithful public, it's difficult to know when to stop and not to make it so complicated that you'll think, I don't know what he's on about. So I apologise if I've rambled on, but I need to do that in order to get some of those key messages home, that we're here for the long term. We're not in it for the short run. So stick with us. We want to be here for another 140 years.